So we have a healthcare client that's based out of Boston that came to us with a telephony request or need. One of the things that they were starting to implement was Salesforce for healthcare. For us, it made the most sense to partner with Vonage since they are one of the leading providers in that particular solution. That client for us has become literally our biggest client over the last 3 years. So, whenever you're charged with helping a client find the right solution or a product that's the right fit for them, typically we have to do a lot of due diligence. So what we initially did was we provided 3 different possible providers for this, need. Working with Vonage, it made sense for me because it felt more of a culture fit, just because of the fact that they actually told us, hey, check out these other providers out here. I really want you to get an apples to apples comparison. And I think one of the most rewarding things was they told me that they basically said, we will always try to win on value, but not necessarily on price. And I think that's one of the most transparent things a partner can say to you.
No two Salesforce deployments are ever the same. And I think that's something that the partner community in general struggles with. They see Salesforce and they think it's an off-the-shelf solution, which it is, but every business model it's deployed to is not the same. So by using that, we're gonna sell based off the product set, based off of the skill set. That helps solidifies the customer, because what may work for one customer from another deal may not work for another customer for this deal.
And I think the thing that really kind of helps our partnership is you guys were willing to really work with all the different people that were involved in the organization, from leadership to people that are actually implementing the solution at the, ground floor part of this whole, deal.
Our goal is always to win on value, especially when we come into an organization who's utilizing Salesforce and Health Cloud and all of these other needs that we have. The value sells itself, right? And then from there, price always becomes a kind of a secondary conversation.
One of the things that's most frustrating, I think, for any partner is having someone just sell them a bill of goods. And I felt like you guys did a really great job at interviewing the client, interviewing myself, and figuring out not only what did they need, but what was the end goal and how could we scale that goal. I know working with Hugh, Hugh got into the technical weeds for, the head of IT for the organization in figuring out, is this actually a good fit today, or will this be a good fit 3 years from now?
I call that session, I call that a whiteboarding session. Instead of whiteboarding all out, Mr. Customer, what are you looking for? What are the business goals here? How can I help you not only today, but 6 months, a year, 2 years from now?
We really did want to whiteboard it. They were new to a contact center, they were new to Salesforce. And so from there, it was a great opportunity for us to not only to show them, that, hey, this is the best way this works, but also, really learn from them as well of how they want to do things. So one of the things that was a challenge here was this particular customer wanted to work obviously with you, but also they had a systems integrator that they were working with as well. And then they also had their Salesforce rep they were working with. And so from a challenge for me was, how do I get all of those units backing you in this opportunity to really win the deal? And so from that, aligning with the systems integrator, aligning with the Salesforce account executive, and then having the support from your agency really helped us align directly with you and then help you win the deal.
Yeah, no, and that's really funny you say that, because I remember, on our initial call where I was kind of like, oh, well, I don't think we need professional services because I'm an IT, guru and I just know everything IT. When in reality, you were very direct on the type of undertaking that is and why it is good to invest in professional services, especially with something like Salesforce. So it was really good for me because it was a good opportunity to educate myself. And I think us as IT providers, we feel like we are masters of everything. And sometimes we end up not only, losing the deal, but we also end up, ruining the relationship with the client instead of just letting the professionals handle that type of, ordeal or solution. So. For us, the moment we felt like, okay, I think we're going to get this across the finish line was honestly when our client started talking about phase 2 and then just future implementations of the product. And I think for us, when we had our internal meeting and we were kind of discussing how can Vonage be a long-term solution, that's when I honestly knew that, the deal was pretty much done.
Whenever the customer's goals started aligning with our products and our solutions, that's when we kind of realized, hey, this is going to be the great solution, not only just for them, but also the future state of them. So not only their contact center, but also their unified communications for the clinics. And then on top of that, also adding in some of the dialer components, other locations. So when we started looking at additional phases, additional rollouts, and doing some other products involved, that's when we realized pretty quickly that, you know, we're not only going to be a good fit today, we're going to be a good fit tomorrow.
I think that also, you know, one of the really cool things about, you know, working with you guys is it's almost like no deal is too small, right? So, you know, we've worked on some deals outside of this client that has literally been one seat. And I feel like even in those opportunities, the professionalism, the thought process, you treat every client the same. And that's been the most rewarding thing for me, and why, honestly, Vonage, we pretty much exclusively use them for all of our clients. So.
Yeah, and you're spot on, right? We understand that a client with, you know, 5 employees today might be 500 in 2 years from now. And with this particular customer, that's not far off. Right. You know, when we first started, I think they had 20-something agents, and I think that they're up to around 60 now. So that's almost a 200% contact center agent growth. And that number is going to continue to grow as we continue working with their teams. And you mentioned the locations, the clinical locations. I think when we first signed up, there were 18 locations. Now they're planning to have 45 by the end of the year, which is outstanding. So we love to see that. We love to see the growth. But more importantly, you know, we certainly understand that the need of a 10-person company could easily be you know, equal to or greater than a company of 500. So.
The support has been a really key aspect of things, and I'm not just talking about professional service or technical support, but I think the support from you guys during that process, because one, there was a lot of things that I didn't know, even being this IT guru that I think I am some days. I think getting that education is key, but I also think having you guys as part of my team or an extension of my team is probably the most rewarding part, because to my client, I look like, you know, not only their trusted advisor, but I also look like their partner, because that's what I strive to be, you know? So I think that that's what's made this whole solution one of the best things we've done as a company, and it's why we'll continue to do it, so.
You know, I'm happy to hear you say that, because to a lot of partners, Salesforce is still an enigma. They don't use it in their day-to-day lives. It's not part of their business model, right? Yet their customers use it, and it's becoming bigger and bigger. It's not going away, right? So I'm glad you said that, because we're able to help fill in the blanks. We're happy to do so, and of course, own the whole process from start to finish.